Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jamie, and I'm participating in the group discussion here. Question number one was, how do I define communication compared to how the book does? And how are those different and how they are the same? So the book defines communication as the process of understanding our experiences and the experiences of others through the use of verbal and nonverbal messages. My definition of communication pretty much lines up with that. I would have defined it as the exchange of messages and meanings from person to person in both obvious and subtle ways. So, pretty much the same thing. Like our instructor had said in the lecture, we're always communicating. So I've been aware of nonverbal communication since I was a child, of course. I do remember being told in grade school from a teacher that my face always shows what I'm feeling. So kind of sending that message that even without talking, I'm letting people know, what's going on inside, and it's a way to communicate. I think the area of nonverbal communication is really interesting and a very important field. So the fact that our ability to read cues given through facial and body movements starts really early as infants, newborns, really. I've read things in brain science that talk about how infants are able to receive and mimic just even a look on their mom or their caregiver's face in just a fraction of a second. And the babies who form healthy brains are those that are around caregivers who are constantly giving them gentle and loving responses with lots of happy looks on their face. So all of those nonverbal ways of communicating are impacting a child's brain. I think that's super interesting, and it happens before a baby is ever able to understand words. So it shows that our brains are programmed to communicate through a wide variety of ways, and most of them being nonverbal. There are some new things in this chapter that I thought were pretty interesting, especially the idea of channels. I've often wondered about what channel is the most appropriate for a given situation. Like, is it better to send an email to confront someone on this, or should I call? Things like that, and kind of wanting a guideline to kind of go off of would be super helpful. I hope that later on in the course we will get something like that, or learn at least the best way to communicate different kinds of messages. The chapter addressed the issue of complexity in communication, and I wholeheartedly agree that communication is very complex. It gets really complicated. So we have personalities and cultures and contexts that we are muddling through all the time, let alone what's going on behind the scenes, like if I didn't get enough sleep, kind of like in the example in the lecture where you just had a fight with your partner and then you have to get up and give a presentation, and like how that affects everything, how you communicate, and even verbally and non-verbally. Like I said, not getting enough sleep, people around me are assuming that I'm angry about something or mad, and really I'm just tired. So yeah, it's complicated. This leads to then the other section that I appreciated in the chapter about feedback. So my thought on this is that I think a lot of times we get the messages wrong, that we're not clearly understanding what the intention was, because we're kind of viewing everything through our own biases, our own ideas and thoughts about the situation. It's a big part of learning to be a better communicator, is to kind of be able to set those things aside and really listen and be able to understand what's being communicated and what's intended. I think it's learning how to recognize my own biases, interpretations, and feelings about the messages I'm getting, and learning how to not just to not get worked up about them, but to be able to offer feedback that's helpful to the sender, and clearly identifies and clarifies their meaning, helping them do that. That's a big goal of mine, learning how to better communicate with people and better understand and help them to better clarify what their own intention is. But I like how that sounds and feels in my own brain when I imagine those kinds of conversations. Okay, so next part, my resume. This resume I made last quarter. I took a communication in the workplace class, and that was one of our assigned projects. For me, it was very helpful because I've been wanting to make a resume for myself for a long time. Before that class had started, there was an opening for a position that I've been wanting to apply for. I had asked my daughter, who's in college, if she could make me a resume because I was busy with, work and school and kids. And she did ask me, when, and I didn't know the closing date, so I didn't make it sound super urgent. But unfortunately, that job did close before we made the resume. So I feel good now that I have it, and I've received some good feedback from my instructor, changed some things to match his feedback, and I'm confident that now if that job or another similar to it opens up, I have something that I can submit. I'm sure I'm going to need to update it in the future. But hopefully the bulk of the heavy lifting has been done, and I have, a good starting place. So that's all. Thanks.